Hi, this is Chris and
Brandan
from Tucson Game Developers, and we're here with
Roel
from the Netherlands. Whereabouts in the Netherlands are you right now?
So I'm from a place called Zeist, which is in the center of the Netherlands. Small, yeah, it's not really a small town. It's for Dutch standards, it's a pretty big town, but I think for American standards, it's a small town. And I live here in the center of the Netherlands.
Great.
Also game dev.
Cool, yes, and Will is one of the creators of Cursed Crew, a cool pirate ship on a high seas game dealing with curses. It's a survival game. You're also a fantastic RimWorld modder right here. Would you like to introduce yourself a bit more and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah, sure. So I graduated as a software engineer, and I worked in the industry for a bit, and at the same time I was doing modding for RimWorld. I created some popular mods like Run and Gun and Giddy Up. People familiar with RimWorld will probably know them if they're in the modding scene. The modding actually inspired me to get more into game dev instead of regular software engineering, which is what I did about a year ago. I started working on this game, Cursed Crew, which you just introduced nicely. And I've been working on that since for about a year now. We recently did a Kickstarter on it, which went really well, so that was really great. And now I'll be working on it for the coming time. I'm really happy to do that.
Very good. Yeah. I really want to talk about that transition that you took from modding to indie game development, because that is a very unique path, and there have been some really cool modders lately who have turned into indie developers. Like we've got Forgotten City and Nick Pierce and his work, like the guys that made some of the Half-Life Source mods, obviously going from modding to indie developers. So what inspired you to make the jump from modding specifically to game development?
Yeah, so one thing was I just thought modding was a ton of fun. It's really... So normally I was just a gamer, and now I could actually influence my own favorite game, which was really cool. But what I also noticed while modding was, so I had a software engineering background, so I could write software, and it was, looking into the source code of the game wasn't, it was new for me, but also not that new. And through modding, I really discovered that with just general software engineering skills, you could actually get into game development pretty well. Modding really showed me that the code behind RimWorld isn't something that I cannot understand or something. It's something I can actually work with and manipulate to my own taste. And that really inspired me to go ahead and make my own game, because I knew the fundamentals of making games, that's something I can already do to some extent, so let's just try to do it myself, and that's what I did.
Cool. I really appreciate Tynan's philosophy of keeping all of those file structures open so that we can have access to them and modify them. That really helps people learn the back roads.
Exactly. It's really, RimWorld is really a good introduction to game development. If you look to the source code, I really encourage anyone that's with my background that wants to go into game development to look at it that way, to delve into the source code of a game like RimWorld.
Cool. So can I ask you, could you tell us a little bit more about Cursed Crew and how that came about?
Oh yeah, sure. So so I created some popular mods, and then went to think, okay, what I really want to make my own game. And actually, I was a big enthusiast of FTL. I really liked that game.
Great game.
And yeah, it's a long story, but I'm gonna keep it short. I have a background in biology as well.
Good.
And so my first attempt to making a game was like creating a biological cell simulator, but combined with FTL. So you would create your own cell, and it would survive in a harsh bacterial world and with viruses and stuff like that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That actually sounds really exciting. I want to see that pitch next.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, so I worked on that, but I ran into some limitations. Then I thought, okay, I'm just going to stick a bit closer to FTL, just create a spaceship builder, and then combine it a bit with FTL. And then again, I just ran into some other games that did really similar things. And I thought, okay, now I need something more original again. So I went to the naval theme a couple of centuries ago with pirates and stuff like that. And I was also inspired by some other games like Don't Starve. I really like the fantasy and the survival element in that game. So I basically, and then RimWorld, of course, and basically incorporated these three games into my own unique mix.
Yeah, because a lot of your curses are influenced by kind of like a mood system. So there is a little bit of that spirit of RimWorld still behind it, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a mood. The crew members have like a mood which is influenced by curses, and also they have their day-to-day activities on the ship, which is also a big part of RimWorld. So yeah, really the essence that you have to keep your crew alive, which is also a big part of RimWorld, can also be seen in our game. At least I hope so.
I just want to say, I think FTL, RimWorld, and Don't Starve are just such a natural combination. You know, I mean, but it's something I had never thought of, and the flavor of the naval battles and the progression elements and everything. It just, yeah, I really like the feel of it. You know, and I'm not a RimWorld player, by the way. You know,
I think you tried it once.
I
for
tried
5
it
minutes.
a bit. No, for longer than 5 minutes, but you know. I think that's too deep, right? Don't Starve is more my level, and FTL, right? Those two are great, you know. So I can totally see me playing a game like this, in addition to, you know, just it being part of the canon, if you will, of these kind of survival simulation games. So,
Yeah, I really like to hear that. I also think it's a natural combination, and we also don't want to dig as deep as RimWorld, like in the simulation element. I think that's also for the time that we have for our game, it's too ambitious, because the time that Simon spent is like 6 or 7 years, and he hasn't been laying on his back. He's been working really hard on it, and you can actually see it. So we want to keep things simple but still very interesting. And FTL is like a big inspiration in this regard because it's such a simple game, but still, it has such great mechanics. I always look at that game when I think, okay, I'm making things too complex right now. How can I get a system that is super simple and still very interesting? And that's like the biggest inspiration for me, that game.
And you also were working as a team within the RimWorld modding community, I guess, with some friends, some artists, and then you've kind of brought them on this journey with you to Cursed Crew. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. So when I did modding, I did do it more or less on my own. So I created my own mods, but I did get into touch with Oscar, who's from the Vanilla Expanded. Yeah, if you're familiar with RimWorld, you know the Vanilla Expanded series. And I came into touch with him, and I talked a lot with him about this game concept that I had, and he got excited as well. So he jumped in at some point. And later, we also had Phil, who is a programmer, join in. Phil was also someone of the vanilla expanded team, so he also joined in, and yeah, we grew from a one-man team to a three-man team basically, and we've been doing that ever since. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, you've got the RimWorld modding all-stars there too. Like that's a really cool group because they're all essential mods that you really can't play without. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, I was really happy when Oscar hopped. Yeah, also for Phil, of course, but Oscar was the first one to join the team, and it was really cool to see that he also was as excited about this
yeah.
as I was. Yeah. So that was really cool.
How have you guys managed to make the transition from modding into full-time game development? Like what major changes in your life have had to take place because of that?
Yeah, so modding was basically just a hobby. I could do it next to my own job. For game development, perhaps it's possible to do it next to your job, but it will take a lot more time. And at some point, I wasn't really enjoying my software engineering job, and I made the full jump to game development. And because I didn't feel like working on a game for 10 years, and it would have to be 10 years if it was next to a full-time job. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to jump into this, which adds a lot of financial insecurity and stuff like that. But I just thought this is the only opportunity I have right now because I don't have kids yet,
Right.
which is about to change. But
Welcome to fatherhood.
but it felt like a good moment to jump in, and this was the only way I guess to just quit my job and go for it full time.
That's brave, man.
Yeah.
It is a good move.
Yeah,
You're going full indie.
yeah, full indie. Yeah. I really hope it works out, and even if it doesn't, I mean, yeah, I've lost a lot of time then and a lot of dedication, but it's such a great experience to go all through this. But let's just go for that it works out.
Yeah, well, I think also it sounds like you've made some calculated decisions here. You know, it sounds like you have a team that has some star power within the RimWorld community, and you're kind of leveraging that into this Kickstarter, right? And using that to kind of help build a foundation and build a base. Is that right?
Yeah, this is exactly right. I actually wouldn't have started this endeavor if I didn't have. Well, I would have started it, but it would have gone very differently. I would have made this jump a lot later if I didn't have Oscar join, for instance. The fact that he was able to join this actually influenced my decision to quit my job, because it just made it a lot more realistic to have like a successful Kickstarter a year from when I started. And this actually happened, and perhaps I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been as successful if people like Oscar and Phil didn't join in. So yeah, it was really a calculated decision. But still, it's still a gamble. You don't know how it goes. You don't know how, if the team works out well. Perhaps you hate each other after half a year or something. You don't know this. It could all go wrong in so many ways. But you just have to make the jump at some point if you feel the conditions are good. Yeah.
Did you have a quick question?
Yeah. How do you guys manage the team? Do you use any kind of management software to help keep the logistics of everybody doing their tasks on time together, or like how has that changed?
How do you approach project management? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, we work with a large schedule for a long-term schedule where we plan just what we want within this year. So we don't look much further than a year ahead. Well, we look, of course we have some longer term goals, but we don't map them out as concretely as the 1 year goals. But yeah, so we have these 1 year goals, and then we divide it up into 2 week sprints. where we set goals for every 2 weeks, and after every 2 weeks we evaluate the last 2 weeks and assess what our next goals will be. And this is always looking at this longer term planning. And then even on a smaller scale, we use Trello to keep a backlog of cards.
Cool.
Basically, what happens is that every 2 weeks we refreshed Trello, so we add new cards, we remove some old ones, and we just make sure that is up to date with our goals.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we use for versioning Git. So yeah, we also make sure to refer to Git if certain tasks are completed, stuff like that. So there's also some incorporation with that. And that's basically it. We don't make it a lot more complex than that.
Okay.
I mean, three guys, right? You don't need a very complicated, structure and producers and QA and things like that necessarily. But I mean, it does sound like,
yeah. Every extra thing you do does also have an overhead, so we just want to make it flexible and not have like 10 different instruments for managing progress and stuff like that. We just want to keep it simple, yeah.
And do you have obviously you have your community, you're right, you're beholden in a sense to shipping for them. Do you to yourself, of course, as a developer, you want to do what you said you're going to do as a sprint, and do you have a publisher as well? Are you thinking about a publisher otherwise as well, or how do you manage that side of things, right? The your audience and publishers and those feelings.
Yeah, so currently we do have the plan to just go for self-publishing. Because so we're already a 3-man team. We're already sharing in the profits with each other, and having another stakeholder will make things more complicated in that sense. And but if things don't go as planned, we might still go for a publisher. But we just want to give this a try with just the 3 of us, see how far we can get without any publisher. And we do have someone who we did hire someone for the Kickstarter, for instance, who did some extra marketing effort for us. So I can share details if you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to give shout outs to anybody, please do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had a marketing team. How did the marketing and the Kickstarter come about? Like who did what? You said you hired a marketing firm. Did they make a trailer for you, or did you make the trailer? What were the responsibilities there, and how did that? And also, why Kickstarter versus say all the other ways that you could possibly launch your game?
Oh yeah, good question. Yeah, for the first question, so basically we created the plan for marketing the Kickstarter ourselves. We did that like half a year ago or something, and we actually hired. It wasn't really a firm; it was just a single person. The marketing. We hired her. Actually, during the Kickstarter, we went for initially we went for a big advertising firm that did like Facebook advertising, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But while the Kickstarter went on, we discovered this was not a good way for us. Because what they did, they just spammed the internet with tons of low quality ads, and they actually, the return on investment was all right. It wasn't great or something, but we actually got some funding. We got more funding from it than it costed, but the quality of the ads just didn't reflect how we wanted to present ourselves. So actually it did more damage, I think, to our, because people saw these low quality ads. They thought, what is this kind of game? Some people even got mad from seeing these ads. So we after a day or so, we actually pulled the plug for that. we contacted someone who also did the marketing for RimWorld. Yeah, Young is her name. I can just name her. We contacted her, and she helped us with the remaining weeks of the Kickstarter by doing a lot of Facebook posts, but Twitter. Reddit was a great source, and she just helped us on those fronts. And your other question about why Kickstarter, for us it was just because we had like already a following on for our mods. We had. It was a great way to just engage those people and to supporting us, and then try to get as much other people in it as well. And so the advantages is also that we build our community with using Kickstarter. You get a lot of dedicated people because they put in some money into your game already, so they're really excited to see how your game goes, and that's also a great asset of using something like Kickstarter. And then there are some alternatives, Indiegogo and stuff like that, but we just went for the most popular one, and that is Kickstarter, I think.
Yeah, very good. How many of your stretch goals did you have planned out in advance, and how many kind of emerged with Kickstarter success being the goal?
So we did have all our stretch goals already planned out before the Kickstarter started. Was that the question?
Well, it's more like how did you structure the development of the game? Did you have those Kickstarter goals like from the early development? Did you already have those planned out, or is that something that we said, okay, we're going to do a Kickstarter now, we have to come up with these new goals?
Oh yeah, some were developed. Some plans we did already have a long time, and some were just for the Kickstarter. Just when we started doing the Kickstarter, we thought, okay, what is something that people will enjoy, and encourage people to back us. So it was a bit of a combination of both. So yeah, and actually, we do for the stretch goals. We actually want at some point to do everything, but a Kickstarter just basically ensures that we get funding to actually realize it, even before the game releases officially. So it works a bit like that.
Yeah, well, I was actually kind of thinking about switching topics from marketing and business stuff to kind of talk more about the development of the game and the design of the game, because we were talking about Kickstarters and features and all the cool things you'd love to do if you had a big pile of Kickstarter money, right? But there's also the things that you design and how you go about designing them. I mean, like how did you decide upon this? You already talked about like this kind of being a mishmash of FTL and Don't Starve and RimWorld, but did you sit down with a notepad and write some stuff out on pieces of paper and just kind of paper prototype or make small toys, or how did you go about prototyping and building up the game concept that you landed on?
Yeah, so basically it was how I started it was just very simple. I had an idea. I tried it, which was the biology thing,
right?
The cell biology simulator, and it didn't really feel like something I should proceed. And I tried it again with the ship builder. Also didn't really feel like something that would be something. And then I tried it again with naval theme, and I thought, okay, this is something I can really work with. And from that point, I started making a plan. So I just created the document with all the main things I want to have in this this game. It was like a 10-page document, nothing huge or something, but just the main concepts of the game, what would make it unique and stuff like that. And I also needed this document just to convince other people to join, because you can have an idea, you can have a talk about it, but if you don't have it on paper, it won't really stick to people. So I created that document with those two purposes, just for myself and also for other people, so they could join. And then I created some concept art and some stuff like that, just to make it a bit more visual, and then I just started working on it with tiny baby steps. And I never had the idea that if I wrote like a piece of code, I thought, okay, this could as well be scrapped at some point, but I just have to keep adding to the game, and at some point there will be parts that will stick, and there will be parts that will actually contribute to the end result. So I didn't create like this huge master plan up ahead, but a small plan. I went through it iteratively, and I try to keep doing that, adding step by step, and hope to get somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the battle between software design and evolutionary programming, where you just kind of let the programming go and you figure out the issues that are going to arise out of that soup of creation, and then you go back and you try to trim it to make it grow in the direction that you want, like a plant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just impossible to plan everything exactly and just have everything thought out. So at some point you just have to write code and see if it works, and then repeat that process until you have something good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And how was the process of writing a game versus writing a RimWorld mod? I mean, you were a software engineer before, and you transitioned over to Unity, right? That's the engine you're using, right?
Unity. Yeah, true.
And how does that feel? Do you feel like you've got a lot more freedom and a lot of more opportunities, or is it a little scary a bit, or how does it feel?
It's pretty daunting, I think. It's a huge step, and I actually underestimated it a bit, because if you're familiar with RimWorld's code, everything is already thought out for you. But if you start working on your own game, you have to really build everything from scratch, and this is a really huge difference. So actually the modding does give you some confidence and some familiarity, but you do have to a lot to learn if you make that step. Still,
what would you say is like maybe was the biggest development challenge that you've come across so far? Like, can you think of any specific example?
Two things I get. Yeah, so a specific example would be like the save system. So your game starts small, and then it's pretty easy to just write the data that you have in your game somewhere. But at some point your game starts growing and you get more and more code, and if the way that you save your data isn't super convenient in how you have to work with it, with how you have to program your stuff around it, it will get into your way. And this is actually what happened with the save system. At some point I just thought, okay, the save system is getting so much in the way, I'm just not saving anything, and we'll solve this issue later. And
oh no.
And then and then later you have this huge challenge of having a lot of software that doesn't save yet, and you have to come up with a system that adapts to that. So so this basically a concrete example, but more in general, it's very hard to just work with something that grows so much. So you start off small. At that point you think, okay, I did a really good job programming this, but then you have like 10 other things that start depending on it somehow, and the thing you designed initially suddenly isn't so well designed anymore. So and for mods this is not really an issue, because the scope is relatively small, and you you just you can even hack your way around it a bit. Doesn't really matter that much as long as the mod is pretty small. But for a large scale program, you will run into issues if you go about it that way. Yeah.
And you really do have to plan on that iteration, because I don't think anybody's ever written a code once and just said, "Yep, it's done."
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also just for planning the time that you need to spend on something. So you create a new feature and you're done in like 3 hours, and you think, okay, this is great. Only 3 hours spent. And
Those are the good days.
Yeah, but you will at least add like 3 times that amount of hours to just maintain that new snippet of code, and that's really hard to realize when you're just adding new stuff, and you will run into that. Yeah.
It's there's always additions and dependencies, and it can take a lot of additional time to maintain those systems. And there's a certain point where architecture and systems design becomes more important, and prototyping and feeling out the concept is less important, right? You've got the bones down, and now you got to figure out the architecture. So
yeah, that's definitely where the 80-20 rule starts to kick in.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, and we're really in that phase right now where we're spending a lot of time not adding new stuff to the game, and that feels sometimes a bit frustrating because you still have the same game while you're putting so much hours into it. But at the end of the day, when you see, okay, this is actually getting a bit more rigid and a bit more better to work with, and it is definitely worth it. But yeah, you do have to spend a lot of time just to make it easier for yourself in the future.
And speaking of, so what is your long-term timeline on this game? Are you talking about being done in weeks, months, years? And the second question to that would be, are you going to add modding to your game?
Oh yeah. So first question is, we do want to have like a very early alpha out this summer. So this is quite close for us, but we really want to get the community involved as soon as possible.
Okay.
And then we hope to reach early access at the end of this year, which is also pretty ambitious, and we hope that we get there. But yeah, it's just a goal we strive, and it could be that we won't make that goal, but we just want to go for that. And then so I think at least 1 or 2 years in early access, and then go for the final release. That's basically our plan. And for the other question, let me think. What was it again?
Would you add modding, or are you planning on adding modding to your own game? That to me, like, I've never added modding to a game, and that just seems so daunting. Like, I'd be like, no, I don't want it. I'm just going to make my own game. I don't want other people to make my game. But,
it's hard.
It seems like a lot of work, but do you want to do it, or what do you think?
Yeah, we're actually already investing in that. We're already trying to get it work, and we do have a system also very inspired by the RimWorld modding system, where they have the devs, and we have something that resembles that more or less. So we do at least want to give people like an XML interface to our game, where they can just define things, and they will actually be present in the game. But going from there, we do have a lot of technical issues to solve to make modding work in its entirety, to make like everything moddable. But we probably are going to put some limitations. For instance, we probably going to allow ship variations. So you have like a certain ship. We're going to allow different variations on that same ship to be modded, so with different cannon loadouts or different items when you start, and a different side graphic. But just making that entire ship moddable will probably not be feasible. Perhaps for some people, we do make it limited to some extent, but we want to make it as accessible for mothers as possible.
Yeah.
Just being a mother herself, we feel obliged to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, you'll still be able to do like new hairstyles, outfits, weapons, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to go for that. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. So
You got a question?
yeah. So the game.
Out there?
You actually corrected me when we were talking a little bit earlier. It's not a rogue-like game, but you do have points of interest on your map that you can sail towards. And then the characters are procedural. Some of the events happen procedurally as well. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so yeah, it is actually, yeah, I would say it is a roguelike, but we may want to go, we still haven't decided completely on that, but we may want to go for a not completely procedural world, but a world with certain points of interest on it, which are the same in every game you play, but the road between those points will be completely procedural.
Cool.
So there will be some familiarity between playthroughs, but actually what actually happens can differ completely. So people will get to know the actual Cursed Crew world. So this is basically what we want with that system, that they get to know the world. And if it's completely random every time, they don't really want to know it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you holding up? How was that?
Yeah, how's the stress?
Oh yeah. There are really some stressful times. For instance, when we just started the Kickstarter, how is that going to go? Will it completely fail? You don't really know. Even if you have the odds not against you, you don't know how things will go. And also now that we actually did complete the Kickstarter, it does raise the expectations of the community hugely, because they actually invested in it. And you have a lot of people believing into your thing, and that actually does cause some stress. But I just try to think, okay, I can't do more than I just do, and I just give everything I can. That's all I can do. So I can be stressed about it, but that doesn't change the situation. So that mindset does help me reduce the stress a bit. But yeah, it is sometimes stressful. What does help is that now that we have like the Kickstarter successful, there is some financial security so that is a big stress relief as well. So everything has its pros and cons, but I think we're holding up. It's all right. It's part of the game, I think.
Yeah, good. I'm proud of you, man. Look at you. What a rock star.
Yeah.
We're in kind of the same situation over on Project Morningstar, because we started it right as the pandemic began. So the world just shut down. And Kent and I had just finished up Save Our Ship and its first release. And we started to talk and say, hey, after we finish up this mod, we've got New California, you've got a bunch of really cool mods for Star Sector and Minecraft. I really want to make this other game, right? And then I found out that I was having a baby also. So pretty much everything all at once. It was just like, my next job prospect, I'm not going to be working at a studio. I can't go anywhere. We're going to have to start this thing from scratch, from pretty much the bottom up, or it's going to be completely remote, and I'm going to have a baby right in the middle of it. Like that is the indie adventure right there. Yeah. It's like you're suspended over this precipice, and you don't really know what's exactly going to happen, but you have to just keep moving forward, doing your best, making great art, making great code, and support that community.
Yeah, great that you also made that step. Awesome. Yeah, that's
a lot of work. You guys are, I work at a studio, so I think it's probably easier than going full indie, right? I commend you both.
Yeah, you just have to worry about your taxes. You don't have to worry about everybody else's.
Exactly right. So
that's true. Yeah, but for at least what also helped me take the step was that I wasn't so much enjoying my job, And I had this idea in my head, and just not pursuing it was actually more painful than just giving up my job and stuff like that. So that made it a lot easier because it felt like just like the only good choice. While that's of course not true, but yeah, just having like a more bleak other option helps you go for like this exciting option. Yeah.
I think sometimes also, as game devs, we have passion and we have stories that we want to tell, and this is our medium, this is our art form, and that's how we tell our stories, and it's like I think it's important to pursue those and those tales, if you will, and bring them to the world. So I'm excited to check out Cursed Crew as soon as I can. I mean, I'm not in your Discord. I believe you, and this is probably a good point. Is there any promotion you want to do? I mean, obviously we're talking about your game, but you got a Discord, right? You're on Steam Early Access. Anything you want to plug anything there?
Oh yeah. Anyone can feel free to join our Discord. We have a community there. We regularly post there about our game. So about once or 2 weeks, we have our sprint summaries there. So we
cool.
share what we did the last 2 weeks. And we have a Twitter as well. I'll share those details. And that's basically it. So yeah, feel free to join our Discord.
You do still have a Patreon. Don't forget to plug that Patreon, because you can't support after a Kickstarter closes, but you can support financially on Patreon.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, and actually we do have a unique ship site. So that's like a cosmetic option for your ship for our Patreon as well. Anyone who backs on Patreon can get that. So
that's awesome. That is a cool feature.
Yeah. We love that as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have left, but I'd love to ask a question about that. Like, is the ship builder going to be HTML based, like it's on a website? You said.
I think no. So we have like a crew builder. So for the ship will actually be there won't be any builder for that. It will actually be a selection of ships, but we do have like a crew character customization. We for everyone who backed us on Kickstarter, we want to share. We're going to share that character creator kit, so everyone can create their own characters in that. So we actually will send out a build of that to everyone. And so everyone there can get their own character. But this will also be the same character creator that will be in the game. So when you actually boot up the game, you will be able to design your own character as well. Cool. But this will be for the characters that you randomly encounter. So that people can actually get. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Roolo, for your time, for telling us about your game. Again, I'm excited to check it out as soon as I get the opportunity to play it. I can't wait to check out your alpha. And thank you, Brandan, as well, for participating and taking part in our interview. So.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, sir. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for giving me this audience, and also just for inviting me. I really enjoyed this interview, and
cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Hopefully you have many more to come. You have a really awesome game, man.
Yeah, thanks. You guys as well. Okay. I'm also taking a look at your game.
Thank you.
I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing. So
awesome, man.
Good luck with that as well, with Morningstar. Yeah.